All right, let's move on to Best Actress. And the nominees are Jessica Chastain for Zero Dark 30, Jennifer Lawrence for Silver Linings Playbook, Emmanuel Riva for Amour, Naomi Watts for The Impossible, and I'm sorry, I can never pronounce this little girl's name, so I'm just going to call her Little Girl for now, but it starts with a Q and her last name is Wallace, the little girl from Beasts of the Southern Wild. And what's interesting about this category is that you've got Emmanuel Riva, who is 85 years old, and she's the oldest nominee for Best Actress ever. And then you've got the little girl from Beasts of the Southern Wild, who is 9 years old, and she's the youngest nominee ever for Best Supporting Actress. So I thought that was really cool, kind of bookending the category. But I cannot, sadly, I have not seen Amour yet. I really want to. It hasn't actually come out where I live. But as soon as it does, I'm going to see it and maybe I'll review it. But so I can't comment on her performance, but I'm sure it's amazing. I've heard nothing but glowing critiques, or well, glowing reviews from the film. But then you've got Naomi Watts for The Impossible. I didn't see that either, so I can't comment on it, but I love Naomi Watts. She's one of my favorite actresses working today, so it's great to see her nominated. Um, Now, Jennifer Lawrence, she is in Silver Linings Playbook, and I'll just say right now that my whole thing with Silver Linings Playbook was that I didn't like it as much as most people did. I thought I really do like dark comedies, and so I was kind of excited about seeing this film. But I think this one was a little bit contrived, and it seemed like everything, all the humor and the darkness in it, just felt very forced to me. Um, and it's another instance, I've said this many times, that I think that the acting level in Hollywood is just so good. You have such great actors, but the writing isn't nearly as good as it was back in the golden age of Hollywood. So you've got wonderful actors, a wonderful ensemble with Silver Linings Playbook, but it's just they're not given nearly as much to work with. But that being said, I think this is a wonderful role for Jennifer Lawrence. I think almost she was tailor made for this because I do kind of have a little bit of a girl crush on Jennifer Lawrence. I'll say that right now. It's a confession. But I do. I think she's just. I really admire how confident she is just as a person. And she's not like other celebrities. She's more kind of when she does interviews, she just says what's on her mind. Whether or not it's controversial is up for debate, but she just honestly she speaks her mind and she's very down to earth and she says things that are just very very funny even if though sometimes she doesn't mean to be. It's just I really enjoy watching her. She's funny and she's sweet and I think that's perfect for this role. And I think she's a great actress. She's going to have a great career ahead of her. I mean, in what was that movie that she was nominated for? Winter's Bone. I loved her in that film, and I honestly thought she should have won in that performance. But she's given another great performance here, and I'm just really happy to see her nominated. But she won't win. I think the winner of this will be Jessica Chastain for Zero Dark 30, and that would be awesome to see. I love Jessica Chastain. She to me, I've said this before, she is a chameleon. She just disappears into any role that she gets, and she's got such versatility, and she's so talented. So she really had a difficult, I think, job with this film because the role that she's given, and I said this in my review also, but the role of Mia, who she plays, the woman who kind of hunted down Osama bin Laden, she is not given much background in the story or in the film Zero Dark 30. Really, all you see is what, you know, the immediate, whatever. And so she's not given much background. So basically, Jessica Chastain had to do all that herself and really kind of create the gravitas and the dimension herself. And she really did it. And I think honestly, what really sold this performance for me was the very, very last scene. And I'm not going to go into detail about what was going on, but the last frame, the last thing you see of the film is her face, and there's relief in her face, but turmoil. There's a sense of kind of where do we go from here as Americans sort of feel. So to me, just that one look she gave on her face captured every possible emotion facet of the film, and also it just captured kind of the American consciousness, in my opinion. It really just captures the zeitgeist, and that's very hard to do with just one look. So right there, I said this girl is talented and she should win for Best Actress. And so I think she'll win. And honestly, if I were going to choose, it would be between her and the little girl from Beasts of the Southern Wild. Now, I loved her performance so much, and I mentioned this because I named that film as one of my top 5 of the year. But I thought that that little girl, she shows such maturity and subtlety. To be so young and to be able to do that, to me, is just mind-boggling. And she really did capture the strength. She was the backbone, basically, of the film. She's what really captured that sense of hope and this that kind of inner strength of the film. And it's all, most of it is just in her face. And once you can do that, once you can really explore things, when if like you don't have to use any dialogue and you can just show what you can, the emotions in your face, that is a sign of a good performance. So honestly, if it was up to me, it would be between her or Jessica Chastain. But we all know that she's way too young. That little girl is 9 years old. She will not win. So Jessica Chastain, she is my pick for best actress. All right, so now we have best actor, and the nominees are Bradley Cooper for Silver Linings Playbook, Daniel Day-Lewis for Lincoln, Hugh Jackman for Les Miserables, Joaquin Phoenix for The Master, and Denzel Washington for Flight. Come on. Everyone knows that Daniel Day-Lewis is in a class of his own. I mean, honestly, and I don't mean this as any, like, I don't mean to be cynical or anything, but honestly, it's like, this is Daniel Day-Lewis and this is everybody else. Not to diminish what they did, but he's in a class on his own. He's on another level. I honestly think that Daniel Day-Lewis is an acting genius. He is one of my favorite actors of all time, and he knocked it out of the park with Lincoln. And I've talked about his performance a lot, but honestly, I could gush on and on about how good it was. But the one thing that I love so much about Daniel Day-Lewis, and that I've seen from him in almost all his performances, is that he's been able to kind of merge the idea of being theatrical and dramatic with kind of a realism and like something that is just very genuine and raw. And he did that in this performance because I feel like, I've seen there have been a lot of portrayals of Lincoln in the past in Hollywood, and this one to me was the most uh, it came to life the most for me, and it was the most kind of multidimensional. And with him, it's like he was able to really capture that physicality, but he 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 speaks the dialogue as if it's Shakespeare, and as if it's they always say that with acting, if you can say something as though you're saying it for the very first time, you know that you're really a great actor. And that's what he does. Whenever he tells the stories as Lincoln, it's like you're just sitting there and you're listening to every syllable, everything he says, because it's so almost delectable in a way, I guess you could say. It's poetic, it's Shakespearean, it's everything. So he should win, and he will win. So that's all I can really say about that. But I'll talk about the other nominees just because that's only fair. Bradley Cooper's Silver Linings Playbook. I'm not a huge fan of Bradley Cooper, but I have to say that this is the first time I've seen him in a role where I felt like he was really able to show his range and really show that he is more than just a movie star. He really is an actor. And it was good because, a lot of these actors in the film Silver Linings Playbook had to really kind of strip away all of that kind of celebrity facade that they all have, and they just got into the dialogue and the meat of it. And again, I said that I thought that the ensemble was better than the material, and I agree. When it comes to Bradley Cooper's character, to me it felt like he was reciting things from a sort of like a playbill, a student exercise drama book or something like that. But at the same time, he really did kind of breathe life into it. So that's a good thing. So I was glad to see him nominated. You also have Hugh Jackman for Les Miserables. I mean, I knew that he was going to get nominated. I mean, everyone knew he was going to get nominated, but it kind of makes me sad because I think that there were a lot more performances out there that were more deserving, more interesting characters, just better performances. And again, I don't have a problem with Hugh Jackman. I thought that he did what he could with the material he was given. I mean, he gave a nice warmth to Jean Valjean that I hadn't seen, and I said that in my review. And he did everything he had to do for the Oscar bait checklist, kind of like Anne Hathaway. He was crestfallen, he cried, he lost weight, he had to age, considerably throughout the film. He sings, he does everything. He does everything he can, but I don't think this is a nomination worthy performance personally, but I know people disagree with me. But Joaquin Phoenix for The Master. I would say that if Daniel Day-Lewis was not in this category, I personally would have picked Joaquin Phoenix because I thought he gave a wonderful performance in The Master. He really did, almost on the level of Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mentioned how I thought the performance between the both of them, the way that they kind of, the layers that come forth in the scenes between the two of them were some of the best scenes I've seen in forever. And, you know, Joaquin Phoenix is part of that. And a lot of people thought, not a lot of people, but a few people have complained that his performance was maybe a little bit too melodramatic, almost kind of kabuki like. But I think that's just a trademark of Philip, or sorry, not Philip Seymour Hoffman, Paul Thomas Anderson. That's kind of a staple of kind of the type of work that he likes to see and the type of acting he likes in his films, similarly to Stanley Kubrick. So I don't mind that at all. I don't mind theatrical performances. And with Joaquin Phoenix, he was perhaps the most physical of anyone. I mean, he's this very, very almost alarmingly manic, psychotic character, but he's also a very sad character. And I felt like he completely internalized that in his performance, yet he was also very physical. So, wonderful performance from him. But I was also really surprised that he was nominated because he said earlier in the year how he thought that the Academy Awards were pretty much pointless and that he didn't really care if he got nominated or not. And a lot of people thought that was disrespectful. Honestly, I applauded him. I mean, my hat's off to him because I totally agree with him. Everything he said, I'm like, you know, he's right. The Academy is all about politics and it's a popularity contest. It's not about what really is the best. But at the same time, you know, like, I thought that he was not going to get nominated because of that, but they still honored his performance, so that's good. And then there's Denzel Washington for Flight. I did not see Flight, and I really, really want to see it because I've heard it's really good. And I was this close to seeing it. I mean, I was at the theater, getting out of my car, walking towards the theater, and I got a call and I had to leave and I couldn't see it. But as soon as it comes out, I am going to rent it. But I've heard Denzel is great in it, so that's Best Actor. Daniel Day Lewis will win, and he absolutely should.